two people are truly meant to be together, there is one pattern that rarely fails. It does not matter how different their lives may be or how unexpected their meeting seems. One particular sign almost always appears first. Most people believe. Destiny appears soft and beautiful from the very beginning. They imagine it arriving as instant comfort, effortless love, and a feeling that everything is finally settled into place. In their minds, two people meet, exchange smiles, and immediately recognize that this is exactly where they belong. However, real destiny does not operate in that way. True destiny often arrives quietly and then begins to shift everything around it. It does not bring peace at the start. Instead, it introduces disruption. When two people are genuinely meant for each other, the universe rarely pushes them together immediately. Rather, it often creates distance between them. It separates them for a time, questions their beliefs, and encourages them to confront parts of themselves they may have avoided. It removes illusions they might not even realize they were living. Within, this process is not meant as punishment. It is a form of preparation. Before two people who are destined for each other can truly unite, they usually need to undergo personal change. They must grow, reflect, and evolve individually before their paths can align in a meaningful way. When two individuals are genuinely meant to share a life, there is one experience that tends to occur repeatedly. Many people assume destiny appears as immediate happiness. They picture two individuals meeting and suddenly everything in life becoming simple, peaceful, and perfectly arranged. Yet genuine destiny rarely arrives so gently. More often, it enters a person's life by unsettling it first, creating shifts that challenge comfort before revealing its deeper purpose. When two individuals are genuinely meant for each other, the universe rarely rushes them into love. Instead, it often creates distance between them, begins to challenge their assumptions, break down false beliefs, and gradually reshape them as separate individuals. This pattern tends to repeat itself over time, and it is one of the signs that appears again and again. Many people misunderstand what destined love actually means. They assume it should feel comfortable from the beginning, like a safe place where nothing feels difficult or uncertain. However, destined love rarely begins with comfort. It begins with recognition, the first indication of a deep and meaningful connection. Is not immediate peace. It is recognition. You meet someone, and something within you reacts before your mind has time to process what is happening. You may not feel calm, may not feel secure, you might not even be certain about them yet, but you still feel noticed in a way that unsettles you. It can seem as though they perceive parts of you that you normally keep hidden, even from yourself. This reaction can feel confusing because most people expect love to be soothing and reassuring. Destiny, however, often feels uncomfortable at the beginning. That discomfort does not mean the person is wrong for you. In many cases, it suggests the opposite. It means they reflect aspects of you that you may have been avoiding. They mirror your fears, your emotional wounds, and the inner work that is still unfinished. They do not only see the version of you that you present to the world. Instead, they recognize deeper layers, and that experience can feel unsettling. For this reason, destined connections often feel intense rather than easy. They create awareness before they create closeness. This is also why people who are meant to share a future rarely remain together at the very beginning. If two individuals are truly meant to build a life together, circumstances often separate them early on. This distance is not accidental. It usually happens for specific reasons. One person may still be carrying unresolved emotional pain. Another may be afraid to become open and vulnerable. Someone may not yet recognize their own value. A person may approach love from a place of fear rather than inner completeness. In some situations, both individuals are still in the process of becoming who they need to be, and unfinished individuals, even with good intentions, can still hurt each other deeply. For that reason, destiny often steps in and creates distance. It quietly says, "Not yet." It recognizes that if these two people came together too early, they might damage something that could otherwise grow into something meaningful. The separation, as painful as it may feel, is part of the design. It is not a form of punishment. It is a stage of preparation. When people who are destined for each other become separated, the pain feels different from ordinary heartbreak. It is not only sadness, it also brings confusion. It can feel like losing direction. You do not simply miss the other person. Instead, it may feel as if something within you is absent. This happens because destined connections are not centered on the ego. They are closely linked to personal growth. When such a person leaves your life, it encourages you to look inward, pushes you to confront things you may have been avoiding for a long time. You begin to recognize your fear of abandonment. You notice how often you seek validation from others. You become aware of your tendency to give too much of yourself just to keep people close. You may also realize how often you avoid taking responsibility for your own emotional needs. Realizations are uncomfortable, but they are necessary. The pain you experience is not meant to break you. Instead, it is meant to awaken you. Destined love has a quiet way of transforming a person. Even when there is no communication, and even when silence replaces connection, something within you begins to shift. Even when logic tells you to move forward and there is no contact at all, change still begins to happen. You gradually become more aware of yourself. Start becoming more selective about who you allow into your life. Begin to express your feelings and your boundaries with greater honesty. Situations you once accepted no longer feel appropriate. Circumstances you once tolerated may now feel exhausting. People you once pursued may no longer attract your attention in the same way. You begin to value depth rather than surface-level attention. Genuine connection becomes more important than temporary comfort. Often, you may not even realize that this personal growth is connected to that one person. Yet the change began the moment they entered your life. In many ways, they acted as a trigger, starting a deeper process within you. This type of connection does not create obsession. Instead, it encourages reflection. You do not lose yourself thinking about them constantly. Rather, you begin thinking about your life, your habits, and the decisions you make. You start reflecting on who you are and who you are becoming. Gradually, you begin asking yourself deeper and more meaningful questions. Why do I love the way I do? Why do I fear closeness? Why do I sometimes accept less than I truly deserve? These questions gradually begin to reshape you. Destined connections often operate in ways that are not immediately visible on the surface. They may disappear from your daily life, yet their influence remains. They change how you view relationships. They transform how you understand yourself. They raise your standards not only for others, but also for your own actions and self-respect. These experiences teach you that love is not only about being together with someone, it is also about becoming whole as an individual. Over time, you may notice that you are no longer willing to repeat old patterns. You stop pursuing people who cannot meet you on an emotional level. You stop ignoring warning signs just to feel accepted or chosen. Instead, you begin to value peace, honesty, and shared effort. This growth begins to feel natural, even though it may have started from pain. That is often how you recognize that the connection had real meaning. Destined love is rarely loud or obvious. It does not always remain in your life permanently. Sometimes it appears, changes you, and then moves away. At other times, it leaves so that you can grow into the version of yourself that is capable of sustaining genuine love. Whether that person returns or not is not always the central point. The deeper purpose is the transformation, the awakening, and the awakening, and the direction toward a more conscious way of living and loving. When two people are truly meant to share a future, their journey rarely follows a straight path. It moves through distance, uncertainty, and inner reflection. Growth usually comes before union, and that pattern, repeated again and again, is often the sign that something meaningful is unfolding. You may find yourself thinking about them during moments when you are becoming more aware of who you are. During times when quiet changes are happening within you. During evenings when everything around you is still and your thoughts feel louder than the outside world. You may remember them during emotional breakthroughs that appear without warning, moments when you suddenly understand something about yourself that you had never noticed before. You are not thinking of them because you feel lonely. You are not thinking of them because you need something from them. You are not thinking of them because you need attention or validation. You think of them because something deep within you recognizes that the connection carried meaning, and that meaning has not fully settled yet. Your inner self senses unfinished lessons. It understands that something important was activated through that experience. This is not weakness. It is not obsession. It is not attachment in the way people commonly describe it. Instead, it is integration. Your inner world is attempting to place the experience where it belongs, absorbing what it taught you and understanding how it has changed you. A destined connection does not simply disappear as time passes. It remains present in subtle ways. It appears when you grow. It appears when you begin to heal. It appears when you move beyond older versions of yourself. This happens because the connection was never only about romance. It was about transformation. Many people wonder why a connection like this cannot easily be replaced. They try to replace it. They meet new individuals. They begin new relationships. They occupy themselves with conversations, activities, and daily routines. They convince themselves that moving forward means forgetting. Sometimes they even believe they have succeeded. Life begins to look normal again. They laugh, socialize, and continue living. Beneath the surface, something still feels incomplete. There remains a subtle sense of emptiness that does not fully disappear. This does not happen because the new person lacks kindness or because the relationship lacks effort. It happens because the new connection does not awaken the same depth. It does not challenge the same layers of the inner self. A destined connection does not compete with other relationships. It exists on an entirely different level. This type of bond is not built only on attraction. It is not based solely on excitement or chemistry. It is not simply about comfort or familiarity. Instead, it is about evolution. It encourages you to become more honest with yourself. It pushes you to face parts of your identity that you may have ignored for years. Destiny often works on both individuals separately before bringing them together again. Distance is not a punishment. It is a learning process. While the two of you remain apart, life is shaping each person in different ways, often through difficult experiences. One person may begin to learn the importance of boundaries. They learn how to say no without feeling guilty. They learn to stop giving more than they receive. Gradually, they realize that love does not require constant self-sacrifice. They learn that choosing themselves is not selfish. It is necessary. Now, the other person begins to understand accountability. They realize that silence can cause harm. They learn that avoiding emotions does not remove them. They begin to see that actions carry consequences, even when intentions were not clear. Gradually, they understand that real connection requires responsibility. One person develops self-respect. They stop accepting uncertainty as proof of love. They stop waiting for clarity that never arrives. They come to recognize that consistency is important. The other person begins to develop emotional courage. They learn how to sit with discomfort. Instead of escaping it, they begin facing vulnerability rather than avoiding it. One individual learns how to stop chasing. They understand that love cannot be forced. They realize that pursuing someone who is not ready only creates imbalance and pain. The other person learns how to stop running. They recognize that distance does not protect them from loss. Instead, it only delays growth. Both individuals are changing, yet neither can fully see the entire picture. This lack of clarity is intentional. If everything became clear too quickly, personal development would slow down. The unknown creates space for transformation before people who are meant for each other can reunite. Certain illusions must disappear. The universe gradually removes false beliefs, often through difficult experiences. Ideas such as believing love should never be challenging. Believing that if someone truly cares, they will always stay. Believing that love must be earned through suffering. Or believing that another person exists to complete you. These beliefs may feel comforting at first, but they weaken genuine love. They create dependence. They produce fear. They form expectations that no individual can consistently fulfill. For this reason, life slowly removes them. This process rarely happens gently. It unfolds through silence. Distance, disappointment, and moments when you are left alone with your thoughts. During these times, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You start to recognize repeated patterns. You understand where, in the past, you may have abandoned your own needs. Gradually, you learn that love is not meant to rescue you. You realize that another person cannot fill spaces within you that remain unhealed. You come to understand that real connection begins with wholeness, not emptiness. There comes a moment when something shifts within you. You stop needing them. You stop looking for signs. Stop waiting for a message that might change everything. Stop hoping they will return so you can finally feel complete. And that moment is not filled with bitterness. It feels calm and peaceful. This is where destiny begins to move again. Not because you tried harder, but because you released the need for a specific outcome. Real love is not dependence. It is a conscious choice. When both individuals are able to stand on their own, love becomes a desire rather than a survival tool. At that point, alignment begins. If they return, they come back changed. They return with greater awareness. They return capable of something deeper than before. And if they do not return, the lesson still remains. You are no longer the same person who first entered the connection. You are stronger, clearer, and more grounded. You have absorbed what was meant to be learned. That is the truth about destined connections. They are not about possession. They are about transformation. They enter your life not necessarily to stay forever in the same form, but to awaken you, reshape you, and guide you toward a deeper understanding of love, self-respect, and inner growth. When people who are meant for each other cross paths again, something feels quietly different. It is not loud or dramatic. It does not demand attention. Instead, it feels steady. Your body relaxes before your mind even understands the reason. There is less tension in your thoughts, less fear about what might go wrong, and far less ego trying to prove something. You are no longer performing or protecting yourself in the way you once did. What appears instead is honesty, the kind that feels natural and unforced. It is the type of honesty that does not require constant explanations or defenses. The connection feels calmer because both individuals have already faced their own chaos separately. It feels deeper because they have looked inward and recognized their own shadows. It feels clearer because illusions have already been broken. It is not perfect, and it never claims to be perfect, but it is aware. There is consciousness in how words are spoken, how silence is respected, and how boundaries are honored. There are no games being played, no hidden motives, and no need to test each other's feelings. There is no confusion about where you stand. There is simply recognition, like encountering a familiar truth once again, but this time with maturity and strength behind it. And sometimes, even after all of this growth, those two people do not return to each other. This is one of the most difficult truths to accept. Yet the destiny between them was still real. The connection was not imagined. It was not a mistake. It was not wasted time. Not every destined connection is meant to last forever. Some are meant to remain only long enough to change you. Some enter your life, shift your inner world, and then leave once their purpose has been fulfilled. There are connections that appear in your life to break cycles that may have existed for generations. These are the relationships that reveal patterns you learned long before you had the awareness to question them. They show where love was mistaken for sacrifice, where attachment was confused with safety, where silence was interpreted as peace. Such connections push you to recognize what you have been carrying that was never truly yours. They bring hidden pain to the surface so it can finally be healed rather than repeated. Other connections arrive to teach you self-respect when you have been neglecting yourself. They reflect how you allow yourself to be treated. Through them, you begin to see where you settle, where you shrink, and where you abandon your own needs simply to keep someone close. These experiences awaken the realization that love should not cost you your dignity, your voice, or your sense of identity. These lessons can be painful, but they are necessary. Without them, you might have continued giving too much while asking for far too little. Some destined individuals awaken emotional depth within you. They help you feel emotions you may have previously numbed or avoided. They remind you that you are capable of deep care, vulnerability, and meaningful connection, even if they eventually leave. They often leave you more open than you were before. Other connections completely redirect the course of your life. Meeting them changes the decisions you make, the standards you establish, and the direction you choose to follow. They do not remain because their purpose was never to stay permanently. Their role was to prepare you for what comes next. Not make these connections meaningless. Instead, it gives them a deeper significance. Sacred experiences are not always permanent. They matter because of what they awaken within you, not because of how long they remain in your life. Many people wonder why destiny often feels harsh, before it ever feels gentle. They question why it sometimes seems to take things away instead of offering them. The truth is that destiny does not exist to protect comfort. Comfort can keep you trapped in familiar patterns, even when those patterns cause harm. Destiny exists to protect your potential. It may allow your heart to break before it allows your inner self to slowly fade away. It may remove certain people from your life before it allows you to lose yourself trying to keep them. In the moment, this can feel unfair. You replay every detail. You question your worth. You wonder what you could have done differently. It may feel as though something you trusted has abandoned you. However, time gradually reveals what pain could not explain at first. With distance, you begin to see how staying might have kept you trapped in an older version of yourself. You start to understand that the separation pushed you toward growth you had been avoiding. One truth appears repeatedly in destined connections. When two people are truly meant for each other, they are often required to grow separately first. They are separated so that illusions can fall away. They let go of fantasies about love, about each other, and about themselves. They are confronted with their wounds, their fears, their unhealthy habits, and the ways they may have avoided responsibility for their own healing. This period is not a punishment. It is preparation. It is not a consequence for past choices, mistakes, or the ways you may have loved too much or too little. Instead, it is a meaningful intervaller, space created by life itself, where change quietly begins to take place. During this time, each person is being refined, gradually becoming a healthier and more authentic version of themselves, the person they were always meant to become. Here, you learn lessons that cannot be rushed or borrowed. You learn boundaries, not as barriers to keep others away, but as guides that protect your energy and honor your value. You learn self-respect that does not rely on validation from others, but grows from a quiet understanding of who you truly are. You learn how to love deeply, sincerely, and with commitment without losing your own identity in the process. You realize that being chosen by someone else has little meaning if you have not first chosen yourself. Your sense of completeness cannot come from another person's approval. It must grow from within. Only after this inner work begins does destiny start to reveal what comes next. Sometimes that path leads back to reunion, where two individuals meet again with clearer hearts and stronger foundations than before. At other times, it leads to a new direction, guiding each person towards someone or something that aligns more naturally with their growth. Either way, no one emerges from such a connection unchanged. Something essential shifts inside you. At first, the change is subtle, but over time it becomes profound. The person you were at the beginning of this journey will never exist in the same way again. If you are reading this and thinking of someone, let these words settle gently in your heart, like quiet rain. You do not need to chase, force, or prove anything. True destiny never exhausts you, never asks you to shrink yourself, compromise your integrity, or live in constant anxiety. What is truly meant for you does not arrive wrapped in confusion or fear. It will feel natural, safe, and right, even in its simplicity. It will never make you question your value or worth. It will not ask you to silence yourself, nor will it expect you to accept less than you deserve. It asks only for growth, honesty, and courage, the kind that comes from fully meeting yourself, even when it is uncomfortable. And if that person does not return, do not see it as failure. Do not let your heart measure worth by permanence or presence alone. The connection was never a test of duration. It was a teacher. It served its purpose by shaping you, guiding you, and strengthening you for what comes next. It prepared you to recognize love not in illusion, but in truth. Destined connections are never about possession, certainty, or guarantees. They are about transformation. They arrive precisely when you are ready, or exactly when you need to be. Prepared, they disrupt your comfort to reveal blind spots. They challenge old beliefs to make room for healthier, truer ones. They may leave pain behind, but they also leave clarity, insight, and a deep understanding that every moment held meaning. Nothing is wasted. No tear, no longing, no heartbreak, no disappointment is meaningless. What feels like loss often leads to alignment. What feels like rejection often guides you toward a truer path. What seems like an ending is often a doorway to a deeper, more enduring relationship with yourself. Destiny does not hurry, does not rush explanations, and it does not bow to impatience. It asks for patience when you crave answers, and trust when uncertainty weighs heavily on your shoulders. In time, you will see how patiently, persistently, and relentlessly it guided you even through the moments that hurt the most.